I didn't show you my shirt earlier. It's not really a new shirt. I've done videos with this one before. That's what she said. Okay, so to one of my what do you call them? My viewers. Thank you so much for talking to me about Morgellons disease, Epstein-Barr disease. And if you're watching on my YouTube channel, please go over to my Instagram, Burrows Bobby, and you'll see that I've got, in addition to copies of these videos, I've got slides, in other words, screenshots of things that I've taken. And I did one about the Bubble Boy and the Epstein-Barr virus. So go over and take a look. It'll make you go, what? It's like a deep rabbit hole. Okay, so let's talk about all of these items all together. One of my habits is to change hats during videos because it helps me get the words. This hat doesn't want to talk. Sometimes if I turn them sideways, they'll talk. Okay, this one says Hall right up here. And I had a professor, Ross Hall, from McMaster University. I was in his class in about 1985. And the class was human biochemistry. We talked about the immune system in particular. And I don't remember very much about that, and I can't remember anything else. But he was a wonderful professor, one of my very favorites. And the course, it was in the Life Sciences building, which is attached to the big hospital that's on the McMaster campus. Now, Professor Hall, I'm sure he's long passed on. So, what can I remember that's useful? Oh, we talked about immunoglobulins. Immunoglobulins. I don't know. I can't remember. That was a hell of a long time ago. Now, what else do we want to talk about? Well, Dr. Hall, I'm going to bet he probably at some time of his life was a churchgoer because people of that generation generally had some churching. There was, I'm sure there were some that weren't, but majority of people of that generation were churchy people. So I don't think they learned anything we would consider metaphysical. In other words, their study at church was primarily the Bible, and secondarily, the book of hymns, and that was it. So, someone who was very scientific, a professor of biology, how would they look at religion, especially Christianity? Because in those days, Hamilton is very close, within an hour's distance of Toronto, Canada. And those people, how would they look? Well, they would say Jesus's miracles would be completely impossible. And what else would they say? Well, I have to skip over to another one of my biology professors, and we were in molecular biology, and he took us into the electron microscope lab and was showing us electron micrographs of various things, and I can't remember what it was. But I remember this professor, strangely, when we were looking at all this stuff, and he wasn't anti-religion. it seemed like his love of biology was related to his belief in perhaps divine creation. He really looked at it with wonder. He just kept going, wow. The more he looked at this stuff, the more he just went, wow. It just blew his mind. And I think it really, I don't know how he would look at like Jesus' miracles, but as far as the amazingness of what you can see using microscopes of various types, I think he just saw the hand of the Creator in it all. But this really is biology, and it's not metaphysics. So I didn't take a lot of physics at university, but the physics that I did take was pretty much traditional physics. I think we did more quantum physics in the 11th grade and the 13th grade. In Ontario in those days, they had grade 13. It seems to me we did more in quantum physics than we did, and I took a first year science course in physics, and I don't remember doing quantum physics then, because it was primarily designed for people who were in a biology program that I was. So they weren't looking at quantum physics at all. So there was no metaphysics. And metaphysics doesn't mean quantum physics. Metaphysics is an older term, and it would come about people trying to understand perhaps Jesus' miracles. Yeah, I would say that it probably went back way to ancient Greece and perhaps Plato and Socrates and their ideas about, even way back in those days, thousands of years ago, they had the theory that matter was made up of atoms. So it's pretty amazing. And metaphysics would have to do with how various, perhaps creator gods, went about doing their thing. Okay, the next thing I want to talk to you about is Larry and Moe and Curly, the Three Stooges. Okay, so the Three Stooges are classic comedy, three of them. And what else comes up when I think of threes? Well, in Christianity anyway, there's the Trinity of God the Father, God the Spirit, and I guess God the Son. I also think of perhaps from Eastern countries, perhaps somewhere in probably China, the three laughing sages. These were three enlightened sages that liked to hang around together, and they'd play practical jokes on one another all the time, and they spent their whole time laughing. Now, why would I have a Freudian slip and say the three stages? The three stages are, and then I think of rocket ships, like the rocket that went to the moon, the Saturn V. And I don't know how many stages it had, but it was made of stages. And what was going on? Well, they had a huge stage at the bottom that had to do the very heavy lifting. And once all the fuel in that stage had been burned up, they jettisoned that stage. In other words, once all the fuel was gone, all the metal that had encased the fuel was, they used exploding bolts, and the bolts let go, and that piece that was no longer any use, it was just dead weight, they let it go, and then they ran on a next stage, and the same thing would happen. And I don't know how many stages. I could look it up, but I'm not going to bother. But they had these multiple stage rockets because it takes a lot of energy to get um, off the Earth, and this was what their design was, to get them out there most efficiently. I can't think of any others. Oh, two stages. Two stages when I think of snow blowers. If you go to buy a snowblower, a really cheap snowblower, maybe like an electric powered one, is a one stage impeller. An impeller is like a propeller that propels your snow. A two stage impeller is like a good one, a really good quality one that is powered by gasoline. And how it works, I've never looked at a diagram of it, but I know from seeing them in the store, that's what they call them, one stage or two stage. Three stages also makes me think of uh, the performing arts. Usually there's one stage for a play. If I think of in Milwaukee, every summer they have a music festival called Summerfest, and they have way more than three stages. They have a huge lineup of different musical acts all playing at the same time, and you walk through the venue from one stage to another. What about, I don't know, I talked about stages of development of certain insects that go from egg into larva, pupa, and then adult stages. And there's like, so that's one, two, I don't know, different numbers of stages for different kinds of insects. Um, and I talked about Dr. David R. Hawkins saying that he believed that humans have the capability to go from being what we call a physical human to becoming a new species called Homo spiritus. Perhaps Jesus or the Buddha is an example of Homo spiritus. Hmm. Hmm. Okay, where are we going next? Okay. Little by little is never a good way to make a move unless it's something that's mission critical and you don't want to do it explosively. Okay, now that I'm completely bewildered, let's go back to the beginning. And I was talking about Dr. Ross Hall, the professor of biology. And well, I've come full circle. And now that you see how stupid I am, because I've forgotten so much about it, you'll have to turn in for another episode of me talking about my approaching dementia.